artifacts which were taken in Greece must be returned, in Egypt must be returned, in Algeria must be returned. It's the beginning of something you don't know where it's going to go.
But if they were stolen...
No, they were not stolen. It was looting, yes, but there were law.
I don't get this distinction between looting and stealing.
No, it was stolen if you want, but in the 19th century, in the 18th century, in the 17th century, during all the wars, art was stolen. So we must give back everything or nothing. And more of this, these works of art, when they were taken, if they were not taken, they would have disappeared, because many of artifacts, African artifacts, are made of wood, and wood it was not made to be kept, so it would have disappeared. They became works of art in museums because Europeans said it's art, It's not from Africa, it was not art, it was meant to disappear.
Right, these artifacts who, would have disappeared in the past,
yes,
but don't anymore.
Now, for the first time, I'm hearing the word looted, or rather, the whites looted artifacts from the blacks, and this is coming from the mouth of a white man, and he's saying that these artifacts were taken during colonialism and even during wars that happened during those times of the world wars. So it begs the question as to why these artifacts have to be kept in the European countries, yet they belong to the Africans. Even after Benin has claimed that these are our artifacts and we need them back, they've never had the chance of getting it back. So we are living in a continent that is being oppressed in the face of its people, and no one is making any step to stand bold and tall against these atrocities and happenings. So this is the first time we are airing this video, and we want to say that it's good we get such videos because it teaches our people on what they should do and what belongs to them. So let's watch this and make a reaction when it ends.
Yeah, the question put there by that art collector, these artifacts, who do they belong to?
They belong to the museums where they are now, because there are laws, and if even for the artifacts which were looted in the 19th century, the war, there was laws, and the looting of war was legal. Maybe it's not moral, but it's legal. And if you want to come back on this, why don't you come back 19th century, 17th century, 16th century? You cannot stop. You don't know where to stop.
At the time, they weren't independent countries.
Yes.
So, of course, the colonial power can decide to take stuff. I mean, it is looting, isn't it?
No. It is looting, yes. Part of it was looting. But if you have read the report, I did read the report in English because I didn't get the French version. And the report says it's not only the war looting which must be returned, but everything. The scientific expeditions where they collected artifacts, they must give it back. The gifts from the colonial administration, you must give it back. Actually, you are going to give back to some countries, and they are not reclaiming it, because it's only the Benin which reclaim the artifacts, not the other ones.
Only Benin is claiming it.
Yes.
And that raises the other question, which is a delicate one. You heard in that report,
yes,
the Beninois scholar there,
yes,
Ms. Zanzou,
yes, I know
saying, how do we get African kids to see their own artifacts?
Yes, you can do this. I think I milite for cooperation between French museums and Africa to organize exhibitions of art, African art. You can organize exhibitions permanently.
And how does that go? Because there's the question of
yes,
the pieces when they travel around Africa. Does it go okay?
Yes, it's okay to send them to Africa, but they must return to the French museums where they belong.
So why is there this promise from Emmanuel Macron?
I don't know, you must ask him, but I think he was like a witch, we doesn't know what he does, but because he says we are going to give it back, as if these artifacts it doesn't belong to anyone but the French museums. And it's very interesting because we saw an example in Senegal, I think it was a museum in Senegal. In Senegal, you have a museum, IFAN Museum, which has in its collections many works of art from many other countries from Africa, and it was a collection built during the colonial era. Are they going to give it back to the other countries, this museum in Senegal? I don't think so.
Many people watching this, maybe they don't know Africa very well, but they do know the Elgin marbles. That Greece has been asking from Britain since the last century. So what's the difference between Greece asking for its artifacts back and what's going on in Africa?
I do not see any difference. The report says it's not the same. The report says it's only about sub-Saharan Africa, because they say 90% of art is outside. This number, I don't know where it comes from, and even in the report they say they don't know where it comes from. But even if it's true, we must help African countries to exhibit works of art. We must lend them to Africa. So there is no difference between Elgin marbles and this. There is no difference with anything. So all the artifacts which were taken in Greece must be returned, in Egypt must be returned, in Algeria must be returned. It's the beginning of something you don't know where it's going to go.
But if they were stolen...
No, they were not stolen. It was looting, yes, but there were law.
I don't get this distinction between looting and stealing.
No, it was stolen if you want, but in the 19th century, in the 18th century, in 17th century, during all the wars, art was stolen. So we must get back everything or nothing. And more of this, these works of art, when they were taken, if they were not taken, they would have disappeared, because many of artifacts, African artifacts, are made of wood, and it was not made to be kept, so it would have disappeared. They became works of art in museums because Europeans said it's art. It's not from Africa. It was not art. It was meant to disappear.
Right, these artifacts who, would have disappeared in the past, but don't anymore. That brings us to another question, which is, you talked about exhibiting more of these works in Africa.
Yes.
What do you do to help African countries to have proper museums that are with the proper funding so that they can keep things climate controlled and to preserve the works when they go over there? What needs to be done?
They need advice from people who know what is a museum, who know to build them. So we know this and we can help them to do this. And even in the report they say that there are 500 museums in Africa. Maybe there are already museums which can conserve these works of art, but we must help them. There are much money from France to Africa, and it's good for helping Africa. Maybe part of this money...
I was going to say, Didier, because you were on a panel here where you were very critical when there was the opening of the Louvre in Abu Dhabi, saying France's cultural diplomacy was misguided. What can the French government do specifically when it comes in this regard? Should they be devoting more energy to Africa to help them?
They can help Africa. I don't see why they could not help Africa when they are renting their collections to Abu Dhabi, because Abu Dhabi has money and Africa has less money. I think we must help Africa. It's not the point. The point is we must not return art which actually doesn't belong to them.
All right, Didier Reckner.
I'm sorry for this, but it's just the law actually.
As you have heard, and as we also always maintains, is that Africa is the richest continent across the globe, because it bears all the natural resources and precious minerals that are more expensive in this whole world. That is why this operation, or the choreographed control, is being thrived, and the whites never want to leave that grip they've held the blacks with, and they will always craft a way of ensuring that the blacks or the African man is controlled in his mind and also in his deeds. Now, this is what is happening. You know, even the election systems in Africa are being decided by the Western countries. Why do I say so? You cannot become even president of a country if it is not approved by the colonies of that country. And that is what even different elections have proven across African continent, and it is stirring a great rebellion, and people are starting to realize that it is time to change all these narratives. You've seen what happened in Burkina Faso, whereby Abraham Traore became the president, and he has stood out to point out at these ills that the Frenchman had been doing to the country. And I say that we are free to trade, but it should be a trade that benefits us, not that you come as a friendly person but wants to exploit this nation. That is the message that we learn from this, because our artifacts are in Europe and they're being used to generate income, but no African country is benefiting from such, or no African continent or person is benefiting from such. It means that we are still far from getting our freedom, but it has just started. As we say it, Africa must get beyond this, and Africa must rise. Let's spread this message, and the countries that have not claimed their artifacts should know that these white men are saying that the reason why they haven't given us back our resources and artifacts is because we are not claiming for them. But still, even Benin, that they say claimed for it, have not gotten such. We have to push them so that they do what they should do and stop that oppression and inhumane acts that they are trying to subject the black man to. Now, I want you to share your comments on this video so that we know what you feel about such videos. Also, if you're watching us for the first time, kindly consider subscribing to this our great channel. Thank you, and may God bless you.